Welcome everyone to our series on intellectual property rights and exporting for small and medium businesses. I am Sarah Cannon and I'm an Assistant General Manager in IP Australia's Trademarks and Designs Group. Before we get started, and in the spirit of reconciliation, IP Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. So today we're going to focus on the practicalities of filing an international trademark registration via the Madrid System. Jasmine will walk you through how to find the Madrid System e-filing page and how to fill out the international application form. Stephanie, who's joining us from the World Intellectual Property Organisation, which you may hear referred to during the presentation as WIPO, will show you how to track the progress of your international registration. And in the last 20 minutes or so, we'll have a question and answer session with our panellists. So in our last webinar, we spoke about the Madrid System. If you missed it, we encourage you to review the recording, and it can be found on IP Australia's YouTube account, and there will be a link in the chat. But as a brief recap, the Madrid System is one way to file a trademark application overseas. The Madrid System is administered by the World Intellectual Property Organisation, and it allows you to apply for and manage your trademark in multiple jurisdictions through a centralised process. The result of a Madrid System application is known as an international registration. We're going to use Slido to manage audience questions. So to use Slido, you can follow the link in the chat or enter hashtag Madrid System, all one word, in slido.com. So panellists, can I ask that you introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name's Jasmine Taylor. I'm a policy officer with the Trademark and International Coordination section at IP Australia. I have previously worked as a trademark attorney filing international registrations for Australian businesses, including for well-known brands. I will pass on to our next presenter, Stephanie. Oh, I believe you're on mute.
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, hello everyone. My name is Stephanie Amwakon and I work as a customer relation assistant for the Madrid Infoline unit at WIPO. And my role is to assist the Madrid users into their registration, application processes, and also helping them manage their trademark.
Hi, I'm Dave Murphy. I'm a customer operations specialist at IP Australia, and I've been in the international team for over 3 years.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Ian Arentz. I'm an examiner at WIPO in the team that looks after Australian applications before they're sent to the designated offices. Prior to taking up the role at WIPO, I was a trademark examiner at IP Australia.
Thank you very much, Jasmine, Stephanie, Dave, and Ian. So to get us started, Jasmine, I'll pass over to you to demonstrate the e-filing form.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Hello, everyone. I will first show you how to find the Madrid System e-filing page from the IP Australia website, and then I will walk you through an example of how to fill out the application for an international registration. If you think of any questions as we walk through, please pop them into Slido, that's slido.com, and the hashtag is Madrid System, and we will have an opportunity to answer them at the end. In order to file an application for an international registration, you'll first need what's called a basic trademark. So you will need an Australian trademark application or an Australian trademark registration. For the purposes of this demonstration, we'll assume that you already have an Australian trademark to be your basic, and you will need that trademark number to go ahead with this process. Now, here is the IP Australia website. You will need to log in to the IP Australia portal by clicking Login. I'm already logged in here, so it says back to dashboard in this section. And so Okay, so now once you've logged in, you've entered in your details. To find the application form, you can put in international. And this section will come up, apply for international IP rights. And here you can scroll down to take a trademark application overseas and log into WIPO's Madrid e-filing service with your IP Australia account. This will then automatically log you into the e-filing, the Madrid System e-filing page. And when you're doing this for the first time, you will click on New Application. I've already pre-prepared an application that I prepared for this demonstration. So here I'll click my draft. So on this screen, throughout this process, some of the details will be pre-populated and some details will need to be entered. Here, the Australia will pre-populate and it will be Australia, and the filing language is English. The applicant's reference is optional. It's an internal reference document. And the next thing you will need to do is import a trademark, which is the basic application or trademark registration. So once this says import trademark, click on that button and then it will show up your details. Here I've pre-populated some of the details and click OK. So a common issue with this page is that the applicants try to put in multiple marks. In majority of cases, you can only use one trademark for each of the trademarks that you want to register internationally. So the button import another trademark should not be used in majority of cases. In my example, because I've already pre-populated some of the details, it has changed to import another trademark. In your case, it will say import a trademark. So now we'll move on to the designated contracting parties. Here, you will need to decide which countries or regions you want to cover. This is called designating. This will depend on where you're likely to use your trademark, and the costs will increase the more jurisdictions that you choose, and the costs vary by the IP offices. In my example, I'm going to use the US and the European Union. Up here, you can find a link to further information for the jurisdictions that you have chosen. And moving on to the applicant. Now, the applicant is the owner of the international registration, and it will populate from the trademark number that you imported earlier. You will need to click the applicant here name, regardless of whether this is correct or not. In my case, I'm using an IP Australia trademark, so this is the details that it's populated. If you try to click to proceed, you will receive an error message saying that you need to pre-fill some of the details. So once we click here, now half of these details will be populated for you and the other half won't be populated. Turning to name, this will pre-populate from the Australian trademark that you imported earlier. The owner of the international registration must be the same as the owner of the basic trademark. If there are differences between the two, you will likely receive a formalities letter from IP Australia stating that IP Australia is unable to certify. This address will also pre-populate. If changes need to be made, suggest making it on the Australian trademark first before going ahead with this process. The country will also pre-populate here. And here you can enter in your email address. A phone number is optional. And coming down to the applicant type, if the owner is a person, then you can choose a natural person. If the owner is a company or other legal entity, then choose legal entity. In this case, because I'm using an IP Australia trademark, the owner is the Crown. So not to complicate things too much, I'm just going to assume that this is an Australian company, an Australian Pty Ltd company, and not the Crown. So turning to the legal nature for an Australian company will mean its type is registered with ASIC, like a proprietary company limited by shares. Moving on to state, in this context, because this is an international form, state here means the country. We're assuming that this is an Australian company, so the state is Australia. The territory section is optional. When you do this for the first time, you go through this process, it is blank. It means the state or territory where the legal entity is registered. When you get to the validation section at the end, the form will pre-populate Australia in this section despite what you put here. So it will say Australia, Australia. If you come back to a draft like I have, it will populate Australia in this section. So moving on to the entitlement to file. To be entitled to file an international application from Australia, the applicant must be one of three things: a national from Australia, and be domiciled in Australia, or have a real and effective industrial commercial establishment in Australia. In our case, because we're assuming that this is an Australian company, we will click entitlement as a national. I'm going to click OK. And then moving on to the next section is the representative. When you do this for the first time, it will pre-populate the details from the basic Australian mark. In this context, the representative means before the World Intellectual Property Organization. A representative is usually a trademark attorney or a lawyer who is handling your trademark application on your behalf. It's not necessary to have a representative to proceed with this process. However, there's value in having a registered trademark attorney or a lawyer handle your application, and they can assist with strategy and give you advice. They also have a network of overseas associates to act on your behalf before the various IP offices. If you have a representative, then they will take care of this form for you and you won't see it. For now, we'll assume that at least majority of people on this call are filing trademarks for themselves and their businesses and not engaging a professional. So it may seem logical to just proceed with the information that it gives you automatically, but you will receive an error if the email address down here is different to the applicant email address in the previous screen. So if you're doing this for yourself, then simply tick the box, the circle that says no, and it will let you proceed. And coming to languages, this will default to English. Here, when designating the EU, a second language is required. Otherwise, the form will not let you proceed. It doesn't matter which language you pick, but the correspondence will still be sent to you in English. In the correspondence section, in our hypothetical, we've made an assumption that there is no representative, so the correspondence section correspondence will be sent to the applicant. So moving on to the mark, this will pre-populate the default positions for you. In our example, the mark is a logo mark in color. So the checkbox says that the mark is in color. The main thing to note for this little box is that the filing fees are higher for a trademark in color, and the difference is about 450 Australian dollars. Unfortunately, the only way to avoid the additional fee is to amend the Australian basic trademark to black and white first. If you don't, you will receive an irregularities letter. So if your mark has color in it, then leave the box ticked. Then turning to the next little box, there is a distinction between the fact that the mark is in color and claiming color as a distinctive feature of the mark. Unless there's a particular strategic reason for claiming color as a distinctive feature of your mark, which a trademark attorney may provide you advice on, then you may choose to leave the second box blank. And turning to transliteration and translation. These sections are only relevant if you have non-English words or characters in your trademark. If your trademark has non-English characters like Japanese or Arabic characters, then you must add in a transliteration. And that means how the word is phonetically spelled in English. Only if your mark is not in English, then a translation is optional. But including a translation of the mark may help avoid issues being raised by the IP officers of your jurisdiction down the line. If you do need to include a translation, then an English translation is sufficient. These 4 sections provide space for extra information, and it's optional. In our hypothetical, we're not going to add or change anything here. So moving on to the goods and services. This page lets you select the goods and services for your international application, pulling from your Australian trademark. In a straightforward case, you might not choose to do anything here. However, one reason why you might want to change your goods and services is to delete an entire class, which may reduce your filing fees. If you click the check the classification button, it will give you an indication on whether the description of goods and services of the Australian mark are likely to be accepted by the World Intellectual Property Organization. For example, it looks like this. If you do decide to make changes, you must not add new goods or services or change the wording of the existing goods or services, so the claim is broader than before. So moving on to the next page, we come to limitations. The purpose of this page is to customize the description of goods to a particular jurisdiction that you have chosen. Different jurisdictions have different practices as to how the goods and services must be described. This is something that requires knowledge of the practices of the IP officers and is one of those things that a registered trademark attorney might be able to strategize with you on. If you would like to make limitations, then this is the place to do it. So moving on to the claim priorities. If your Australian trademark was filed within the last 6 months, then you can do what is called claiming priority, which basically means that your rights in international registration will be calculated from the day that you filed your application in Australia. This page will automatically decide whether you're entitled to claim priority based on your Australian mark that you entered in at the beginning. In our hypothetical, our trademark was registered a few years ago, so it hasn't given me the option. So moving on to seniority claim. Now you will only see this screen if you have designated the EU. The seniority claim page is only relevant if you have a registration in the EU, in an EU country for the same mark. So the next page is a declaration of use. This is required if you are seeking protection in the USA. It basically asks you to declare that the applicant has an intention to use the trademark and a right to use the trademark in the USA. The main part of the form that causes the most confusion is the fact that it requests a signature, but the electronic form doesn't allow for a handwritten signature or an electronic signature. To complete the signature section, typing the signature here is sufficient. When you come back to a draft, it actually adds the slashes. When you type it in originally, there will be no slashes. That is sufficient. So moving on to the next page is the attachments. Now this will automatically attach the declaration of use for the US. You have the option of additional attachments here. So the next page is fee calculations. This page sets out the calculation of costs to file the international registration, designating the jurisdictions that you have chosen. If you click on show fee details, it will give you a breakdown of the costs, and it will only give you the Swiss franc amount. Next is the validation page. On this page, you can download a PDF summary of your application. So most things are pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to mention a couple of things. When you get to territory here, it automatically puts in Australia, no matter what you put in the territory section earlier, it will come up as Australia here. In addition, on the entitlement to file section, if the entitlement is entitled as a national, as we did earlier in the form, the application summary will show no for both of these domiciled in the territory and real and effective industrial commercial establishment. So the application is not complete at this point. You still need to have a successful payment before it's considered filed. So moving on to the next page is payment. And here you have the option of paying with your current account at WIPO or also your credit or PayPal. Once the payment is successful, the summary page will become available. And it looks something like this. The important thing to look out for on this page is that the status is paid. If it doesn't anything that payment has been made, please get in contact with us and we will help you out. So thank you very much. That concludes the demonstration of the e-filing system.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jasmine. Could you explain a little bit about what happens after an international application has been filed?
Sure. So once you've filed the application for the international registration, it will then go through a process of certification by IP Australia. And once it's passed certification by IP Australia, it will then be forwarded to the World Intellectual Property Organization. It might take a little while before the mark appears on the WIPO database. Once it's with WIPO, it will then, a formalities exam will then be conducted. And if all goes smoothly, a registration certificate for the international registration will be issued. At this point, a certificate for the registration does not mean that it's registered in all your jurisdictions. Once you've received that certificate of registration, it will then be passed on to each of the IP offices that you have designated. And it will go through a process of an opposition period in those individual IP offices. If all goes smoothly, then eventually your trademark will be registered in each of the jurisdictions that you have chosen. So thank you very much, and I will pass back to Sarah.
Okay, that's great. So thank you very much, Jasmine. If Jasmine's presentation has raised any questions, please add them into Slido. And again, to use Slido, follow the link in the chat or enter Madrid System or one word in slido.com. So now I'm going to pass over to Stephanie at the World Intellectual Property Organization so that she can demonstrate how to check the status of your international registration online. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So I will now start the demonstration of the tool Madrid Monitor. As a reminder, like it was just said, please bear in mind that it is only after your application has been certified by IP Australia and submitted to us that you will be able to check the status of your application in the Madrid Monitor system. So I will share my screen with you. Just a moment, please. All right, I hope that you can see my screen. All right. So as you can see, we are now on the WIPO website. And to find Madrid Monitor, you will need to go on our page eMadrid, which is where we have regrouped all our online tools and services to help you file and manage your application. So now to find the eMadrid page, you will go on the menu, under Protect and Manage. You click on the drop-down menu, and under Trademark Protection, you have all the links. Here is eMadrid. So you click on the link, and you will find yourself on the eMadrid page. As you can see, here is an overview of most of our online services that you can use if you have a WIPO account. And here, what we're looking for is this one: monitor your registration. Use Madrid Monitor to track the status of your international application or registration. So from the eMadrid page, you will click on here, Get Started. And this is the screen that you will see when you arrive on the Madrid Monitor page. As you can see, you have a main search bar, and you also have a menu on the left where you can conduct a simple search, a more advanced search, a real-time search, and also an image search. So most of the Madrid users, when they're looking for information, usually they only have a reference number, maybe an international registration number, a basic registration or application number. Maybe they also have just a name, the name of the applicant, or the holder of a trademark. So I will show you how to conduct a simple search using one of these parameters. To do that, I will use one of our very own trademark patent scope that was registered by WIPO. So if you have the international registration number of a mark, what you can do is that you will make sure you're under the simple search, and in the search bar, you will enter the IRN number. As you can see, Madrid Monitor will also show you a list of suggestions most of the time for any data that you input. It can be very convenient, especially if you have a name or a word. So here for the registration number, it is entered, then you click on the search icon. And here you will see the mark that appears, a very short summary of the basic information of the mark. So this is how you will do the search with an international registration number. Just to show you, if you have a name that includes several terms, you will just have to do it a bit differently. You have to use brackets, and you will enter the name inside of the brackets. So for patent scope, I will enter all right, so this is the name of the holder of patent scope, which is us. And now you just do the search, and you will see all the results with all the holders who have these terms in the name. Here is the brand that we were looking for. This is patent scope. So when you click on the records, you will be taken to the current status screen. So as a Madrid user, you might wonder how you can interpret the information on this page. So I will quickly explain a few points. When you are on the current status screen, basically it is divided in two parts. You have the first part, which is the current status. And here you have the essential basic information concerning the brand. Typically, you might find the date of the registration of this brand. You can find the name and the address of the holder of this registration. You can also see here for which classes of goods and services this registration was inscribed. This is all the basic information. And the second part, when you scroll a bit down, is what we call the transaction history. And here you will see a small summary of the transaction history, all the transactions that have been received at the Madrid registry, that have been examined, and that have been inscribed. To give you a quick example for the mark patent scope, you can see here that one of the first transaction was a decision from an IP office. Here it is a notice of a possible opposition that was sent by the IP office of Singapore. You can see the date, the publication date, and if there is a document that you can download, it will also appear here. Another quick example, here we have received in 2006 a grant of protection from IP Australia. And you can see again the publication date as well as the document, a copy of the official document that was sent by IP Australia. All you have to do is to click, and then you can see and download the copy of the notice. Lastly, so it is in a chronological order. You will see the latest transaction at the bottom. And one of the latest transaction was a renewal request that was submitted in 2016. And as you can see, we have renewed this mark for another 10 years. So this is the information that you can see on the current status screen. Now, maybe as a Madrid user, you would like to see the information in a quicker or more condensed way. Let's say, for example, you just want to find the documents that were sent by IP offices for this trademark. And you can do that by looking at the information here that is sorted by tabs. You have the Summary tab, the By Office tab, the Documents tab, and the Real Status tab. Sorry. So this is the same information that you can find on the current status screen, except they are sorted. For example, under the Summary tab, you have the transaction history again. And in the By Office, you will see all the national or regional IP offices who have already issued some decision for this mark. And here you just need to click on the drop-down menu for each designation, and you will see what was sent, what was received. For example, for Australia, here the grant of protection that was recorded appears here. You can download the document from the IP office. Same here for China. You can see the notice of provisional refusal as well as the official document that was sent. You can also simply look at the Documents tab, because not every IP offices sends a document with their decisions. For some, there is no document necessary. So if you really want to make sure that you don't miss any document, just go under the Document tab, and there you will see all the designations that have sent a document with their decisions, and they're all available for download. I also want to show you the real-time status tab, which is one that is very important for the Madrid users. A lot of time you would like to know what is the status of your application or your registration, what was the latest decisions that were received by us. The real-time status will show you in real time what are the transactions that were received by us, examined by our examiners, and recorded in the Madrid registry. So for patent scope, here, for example, you can see again the grant of protection from Australia. If you click here on the reference number, you have a little summary of the decision. You have the office. In this column, you have the office that sent us, the IP office that sent us the notice. You have the inscription date, so the date where we inscribed this decision in the Madrid registry. We have the notification date. Here you can see the date at which a notification was sent to the client and to the other designated contracting parties about this latest development. And you have the date of the publication in the Gazette, in the WIPO Gazette. I can show you another example. For example, here in 2015, we have received a notice of invalidation from the United States, the USPTO, for this mark. If you click on the reference number here, you will see which office sent the decision, so the United States. Again, the summary of this mark. And here, which is also very interesting, you have the possibility to download the document. So if I click there, you will see the notice of invalidation that was sent by the USPTO. You can just consult it, or you can also download it. So this is for the real-time status. All right, we can go back. I will go back on the main screen. I also wanted to show, because in a lot of cases, the Madrid users only have their basic application or registration number. They might not have yet received our WIPO application reference, and they would like to know the status of their application. So I can show you how to do that. You will not use the simple search in that case. What you will do is that you will go on the real-time search menu, and there you can see that you can enter different type of reference number to find the information. So in the case of patent scope, I will show you how you can find information if you have, let's say, the basic registration number. I will just need to go back and get it. Just a second, please. So let me. All right, so I just retrieved the basic registration number to show you. And now I will go back on the main search page. So let's say as a Madrid user, you don't have yet the WIPO reference number of your application, and you still want to know the status, or if we have at least received your request from your Office of Origin. So you will go under real-time search, and you can enter here the basic registration number or application number, if you have it. In my case, it's the basic registration number. And if you click on search, then you will see the result with the basic registration number. Here you can see patent scope appears, and you have the status of the application. So this is how you do if you only have a basic application or registration reference, or if you have any other type of reference and you want to know the status. All right. Lastly, I also wanted to show that Voilà. So I also wanted to show you quickly that all the information that you see can be downloaded. You always have the option here to download one page at a time. However, here in HTML, PDF, or XML format. And you also have the option to set up an alert every time there is a new update on the trademark. And to do that, you will need to click here the little star icon to set up the alert. You need to have a WIPO account to use this option, but it's very convenient. And I think this is all for the Madrid Monitor demonstration. I will pass you back to Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. So now that we've seen how to file an international application and how to check its progress, I'm going to open the floor up to questions. So please continue to add any questions that you may have into Slido. The hashtag can be seen on screen. And again, if you use the website, it's Madrid System, or one word. So the first question we have is, how long will it take to register my... Oops, we've just lost the questions. Here we go. How long will it take to... I'm sorry, the lobby comes over my screen. How long will it take to register my trademark in each country? So, Ian, do you want to answer that question for us?
That depends on the processes in the individual designated country that you've chosen. So once WIPO has received your application and processed the formalities, we then forward it to the designated contracting parties, and then it goes through their normal examination process. So it depends. There might be issues raised in those countries which would then involve back and forth. So it's I can't give a date or a length of time because every case is unique. So I'm sorry about that, but that's the best answer I can give.
Thank you very much. There is a requirement in the Madrid system that marks will be examined, and if any objections going to be raised, they'll be within 12 to 18 months, but it can vary, as Ian just said, it can take anywhere up to that period of time. So I will pass this question over to you, Dave. What is an irregularity letter and how do I respond?
When WIPO receive your application from IP Australia, they'll review it. And if there's anything preventing the application from going to registration, they'll issue an irregularity notice. You'll receive a copy of that notice via email, and the attachment will list the issues they've raised, the timeline to respond, which is generally 3 months, and prompt you to make a response in the international application form itself. So you'll need to access it again from basically the same place you filed it, which is via IP Australia's online services portal in the international section. And when you reopen the international application form, you'll see the issue or issues listed with an answer box under each for you to type in your response, or you can attach a letter if you prefer. And when you've made that response and hit send, the application will actually come back to IP Australia. We'll quickly review your response.
Oops, Dave. Keep getting muted. Dave, you have been muted. Sorry.
Oh, somebody didn't like my answer. I'm not sure how far I got before I was muted, so I'm assuming you've logged back into the international application form, opened up again and typed in a response to each of the irregularity issues raised and or attached a letter. And when you've hit the send button, the application form comes back to IP Australia and we will forward it to WIPO. You'll receive a notification email when we've done that. And ultimately, it's up to WIPO to officially consider your response.
Thank you very much. The next question relates to the classification check done at WIPO. So it reads, does the check classification only check against WIPO classification, or does it check against your designated jurisdictions as per the WIPO goods and services, the Madrid goods and services list, I think that is? So Stephanie, could you explain about the classification check that's conducted at WIPO? You just need to unmute.
Yes, I will pass this question maybe to Ian because it's more of an examination question. Yes.
No problem.
Okay, so in relation to the specific tool that IP Australia uses, I'm not sure, but when an application comes into WIPO and we examine the classification, we check it against the NIS terms and the Madrid Goods and Services Manager and related terms. Now, some countries do have differences to that, where they accept some terms that other countries do not. For example, Australia does accept broad terms in their examination, whereas the US does not. Okay, sorry, it is about the checkbox on the IP Australia form. Sorry, so I'm not sure what background system it actually checks against, so I'll pass back to Sarah.
Thank you very much. So Jasmine, you might want to pick that one up in that case.
Yeah, sure. So the check the box classification box checks against the WIPO classification. So if those boxes are ticked, when you saw me demonstrate that before, it is an indication that WIPO will accept your application, the description of the goods. So it's not an indication that your goods will be accepted by the individual jurisdictions. It comes in the limitations section, is where you can customize those goods and services. And that's where you need, where it's valuable to have an expertise to do those custom tweaks for the individual jurisdictions that you've designated. But the classification tool just checks for the classification with WIPO and not the individual jurisdictions. And I hope that that has answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is, does the EU include the UK? And so the answer to that is not anymore. So an EU unitary trademark right no longer includes the UK. The next question is there a way to find out how much it will cost before going through the application process? So Jasmine, I think you touched on the costs in your presentation. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit more?
Sure. What you can do, if you don't want to go through the whole process to work out how much it's going to cost, you can find the fee calculator on WIPO's website. Perhaps I might share my screen quickly and I can show you what it looks like. So for example, you have the fee calculator. And then this is where you will type in the transaction. I'm not going to step through all the steps, but you can see that the link is here, and I've just typed in fee calculator for an international trademark registration. We will also link it to at the end of the webinar, and you will be able to follow the link there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So how long will it take to get a confirmation from the international markets? Will there be an application pending number that could be used in the interim? So this question is a little bit similar to one we had before in regards how long will it take for each country to examine the mark. It can take, there's a short period of time between a mark being filed with IP Australia and it being sent out by WIPO to the varying countries, and you'll then get your international registration number. In terms of confirmation of registration, you will have that international registration number and you may be allocated a national number from the designated countries, and you can use that to signify that you've applied for registered protection, but obviously it won't be granted. So I hope that answers that question. Dave, this is similar to one that we asked before, so I'll throw this one back to you. What does provisional refusal mean?
Provisional refusal is similar to an adverse examination report that you might have received when you filed your Australian trademark. So it's basically a letter from the trademark office in one of the countries you've nominated, explaining that they can't accept it at the moment and you'll need to make a response and hopefully overcome the issues that that trademark office has raised. What do I do? Read the notice carefully because it will list what you need to overcome to gain protection in that particular country. It will also list how you make that response. Each country has its own preferred manner, I guess. And for instance, the USA will require that response to be made via an attorney who's registered to practice in the USA, whereas some countries you can respond directly. So read the notice carefully. You may wish to consider legal advice, particularly from an IP professional who is familiar with that particular country.
Thank you very much. And Ian, I'll ask you to answer this one. What happens if no provisional refusal issues? How do we know that the mark is registered in a particular country?
So if no provisional refusal is issued, the country should issue a grant of protection, and you'll receive notification from this through the standard forms, or you can, as was demonstrated by Stephanie, have a look on the Madrid Monitor tool, and you can see which countries have granted protection and which haven't.
That's great, thank you. And Stephanie, I think this is a question for you. Can I subscribe to alerts in Madrid Monitor to receive notifications when something happens to my mark?
Yes, definitely. So maybe I can show you again quickly how you can do that. I will share my screen briefly. All right. So again, you will have to go on the Madrid Monitor to set up the alerts. So you can go from the Protect and Manage menu, and under the Trademark Protection, you will click on our eMadrid page. And here, monitor your registration, get started. All right, and there, so if you want, you will have to enter the international registration number of the specific mark for which you want to set up the alert. So you have to start by entering your reference number, and there you can click on the records. So when you are on the current status screen, it is very easy. You look on this banner and there you can see a little star. Alert me when document is updated. So basically when you set up the alert, you will receive a notification every time there is a new update in this for this mark. So if you receive a new decision, a new transaction, a document is ready to be uploaded, you will need to click on the star. But I want to remind our users that you need a WIPO account to use this feature. So to do a WIPO account is pretty easy. You just need, so from any page on the WIPO website, you will click on the IP portal login, where you will have the opportunity to create a WIPO account. Once this is done, then you go back to Madrid Monitor, and from the current status screen, you will be able to here set up the alerts. I hope this is clear.
That's great, thank you very much. So I'm conscious of the time, but I think we've got a couple of questions left. So does the US office require a local representative when using the Madrid protocol? I will answer that one quickly, and then I'll pass the next one over to Stephanie. So the US office doesn't require a local representative when you initially file, but if there is a concern with your application and a provisional refusal is issued, then you will need to instruct a US attorney in order to respond. So Stephanie, I'm going to come back to you for the next question. Can you explain what happened?
Sarah?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would like to add to your answer to this question very quickly. So you can find this information on the WIPO website. If it is okay, I can maybe quickly show the users how to find that information.
Sure.
So let me just share the screen again. Yes, so if you go on the WIPO website, more specifically, if you go on the main page of the Madrid System, and you can do that again by clicking the Protect and Manage menu and going on the Madrid, the International Trademark System page, which is this page. I just want to remind the users that there is a tool that we have where you can find all the information on our the Madrid members, including the answer to that question. So from the Madrid System web page, if you click on this link in the first paragraph, 130 countries, you will be taken to the page about the members of the Madrid System. And on this page, if you scroll a bit down, you have those menus, the membership procedures declaration. Under the procedure menu, you can see there is a link that says learn more about members' procedures. If you click that link, you will be taken to our tool, which is the Madrid member profiles, where you can find basically all the most important information on all the procedures concerning the members of the Madrid system. So let's say as a Madrid user, you don't have the time to give us a call and you would like to find this information, you can go on the Madrid member profiles. And here you will enter the member that interests you. So the United States. Here you can see it already appears here. You can click and then you click next. And here you will see that you can select which type of information you want to learn about this Madrid member. You can simply put all available information, general information, or you can also look for the very specific information you need. But since it is a quick demonstration, what you can do is I will show you here. So you see under the information on procedures as a designated contracting parties, you see that you have this here menu requirements of legal representation. Now, if you want to know information on this topic, you can tick the box and then click next, and you will find the information. And here, as you can see, a requirement of local representation, it says that the holder of a third party will be required to appoint a local representative for specific procedures before the office if the holder has no address for service in the territory. You also find all the requirement from the USPTO regarding local representation. So that was it. Just wanted to show the users how they can also find this information on the website.
So thank you to our presenters and thank you to everyone for your engagement. On screen are some resources to help you along your journey. We will copy the links into the chat so you do not need to type them out, and this webinar will also be available for download shortly. I hope that the series has helped you make informed decisions about protecting your trademarks internationally. So we'll end it here and we'll email the recording of today's webinar soon. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you very much.